Okay, well, welcome to the next edition of the All Things Richmond podcast. I'm here with Ted Elmore of Bridge Park RVA. Ted, so I know who you are. Do you want to give the listeners just a quick background on who you are and what Bridge Park RVA is?
Yeah. Hey, dude. Thanks so much for having me. Good to see you again. Good to see you feeling good, looking good. So I'm Ted Elmore. Actually used to be a corporate finance lawyer, believe it or not. And I up and quit that to pursue this Bridge Park project, which is a long-term vision to create a series of public gathering spaces that cross the James River at its center, across the Manchester Bridge. And so it's sort of a linear park style experience that was inspired by a park in New York City called the High Line. And so we kind of took that prompt and thought about what something like that could look like in Richmond. And I think it could be something even better than the High Line at the end of the day. So I'm the president, executive director of the nonprofit foundation that's advocating for this project, as well as planning the project and doing the fundraising and the architecture and engineering and everything else at this stage. So at this point, it's a grassroots, sort of scrappy startup, not unlike yourself, of people who love Richmond, excited about Richmond, love the James River, love the culture that is really exploding in this city, and see this as an opportunity to really kind of both build off of that momentum and really catalyze a whole nother phase of Richmond.
And are you a lifelong Richmonder?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Midlothian, and I now live in the Fan, and went to school in Charlottesville twice, and went to law school and undergrad there. So I've been flown too far from the coop as of yet. So I just love Richmond so much. It's very hard to leave. And now, very involved in as much Richmond things as I can possibly do. So it's great to be on the sort of All Things Richmond podcast, because that's my favorite topic.
Yeah. So as a real estate developer, whenever I travel to a different city and I see something cool, or I see whether it's an experience or a city block or a building or whatever it is, my first instinct is like, oh, wow, how do we get that here? And it sounds like that's kind of what you've done with the High Line in New York. So can you walk me through the first time you went to the High Line and experienced it, and how that light bulb, how did the light bulb go off in your head to connect, hey, we should do that here, and not only should we do it, this is where we should do it?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a long story, and actually most people don't realize this, but Bridge Park was not my idea. It was actually sprouted out of a couple of local leaders called Ella Kelly and Mike Hughes. Mm-hmm. And Ella was a local community organizer, advocate, one of the sweetest humans you'd ever know. And she teamed up with Mike Hughes, who was the longtime president of Martin Agency. Mm-hmm. And they originally had the idea to create this High Line style park over the Huguenot Bridge in the near West End. And that was an idea that got a lot of traction. People were really excited about. This was actually before I was involved.
So what year was this?
So that was 2012.
Okay.
Everyone said, oh, that's a really great idea, except for VDOT, who said, well, no, we really plan to tear that bridge down. As you may recall, they built a new bridge and tore down the old bridge. Anyway, they, as a result, they reoriented around a site downtown, which was this set of ruins that runs across the river, just upstream of the Manchester Bridge.
Right.
And then when I got involved, I really wanted to kind of poke and prod at that idea. To be totally honest, I started to kind of fall in love with this ruin as an object of beauty, as an object of storytelling, as an object of remembrance.
Is this the ruin from Civil War times?
Yeah,
where the bridge was burned down.
Yeah, exactly. And we could do a whole podcast on it, but it was a ruin that's if you next time you're on the Potterfield Bridge or on the Manchester Bridge, it's right between those two. And so it was built in 1838, burned down in 1865 by retreating Confederate troops who really wanted to burn Richmond behind us. And so there's an interesting story in that a lot of folks like yourself are building Richmond back up still, I believe, and opening Richmond back to the world. So there's sort of this rebirth story there. Most people know about the burning of it. To me, the most important thing of it is the building of it. And the building of that bridge was done by teams of enslaved Africans and Irish immigrants working together. And it's quite an extraordinary lesson in what can happen and what objects of beauty and beauty and longevity and strength can be erected with this sort of intercultural teamwork and cooperation versus the opposite of that, right? Which is this in one fell swoop, a group of bad actors can just burn the whole thing to the ground.
Yeah.
It's full of metaphors, and I apologize, I could go on and on about those, but
sure.
It's really a place of extreme importance, I think, to our city, and I think really nationally too, in terms of who built the South in the United States and the Western world, the economy of North America.
Right.
So when I got involved, we hired some architects to poke and prod at that, using that particular ruin. And through a series of community engagement, we ended up actually shifting the locus of the park site from that ruin up to the Manchester Bridge. And the reasons for that were, there's a lot of different reasons. One is it's this sort of an unused or underused space. It's a great story in terms of sort of adaptive reuse and how we rethink our cities, rather than having major highways run through our beautiful neighborhoods. Instead, have us kind of linger in the city and enjoy the city, enjoy the views. But also it operates at city level. So it connects you through the city, it takes you on a journey through the city, which is something very different than what we have at the James River Park system, which is a journey through the riverscape. And as you probably know, as a real estate guy, there's an actual pretty big difference in grade between the river and the city. Our spot, 5 to 7 stories in difference. So I didn't really answer your question, but I did. That's sort of the history of it. The line is obviously a great inspiration. If folks haven't been there, I really encourage you to go. We're recently invited to join a network of parks that were inspired by the High Line all across the United States, and it was pretty a huge honor to be invited to that group. There's among the East Coast, there's now Richmond, New York, DC, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Miami. And you're familiar with, you were kind enough to introduce me to Ryan Gravel down in Atlanta. Right. And I visited him, and I think actually that project actually has a great learning lesson for us too. And that's really it's more of a greenway. It runs around the city, and it's really affected how we think about Bridge Park is maybe even a bigger term opportunity than just a Manchester Bridge. And I don't know if you've been, I can't remember, did you say you've been down there or no?
Yeah, so it's funny, I heard that guy speak about the Atlanta project and then introduce you. And then 6 months later, I happened to be at a conference out in Atlanta, hadn't thought about it. And I was at a brewery, and I turn around and it's right there. And I'm like, wow. And so people are walking and biking, and I was kind of mesmerized by it. Because after hearing the story and then seeing humans interact and use the space, and just you could just tell people loved it, and it really is just a walkway, right? I mean, it's the way people use it, right? They feel connected to the city. The people walking were so diverse: old, young, white, black, biking, walking, rollerblading, walking dogs, walking babies, everybody together. It was just a cool thing to see.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, that's exactly what was my response to it is, it's just a pretty narrow strip of asphalt. Right. Packed with all kinds of folks doing all kinds of different things, skateboarding, rollerblading, like you say, walking the dog.
Can you imagine during COVID, now, how important that is to the people that live in the city of Atlanta right now?
Yeah, it's huge. And actually, the Beltline has remained open during COVID, and honestly, partly because it's a transportation route, and that's a big part of Bridge Park too, is thinking about multimodal transportation and healthy transportation on sort of all levels. And yeah, in the time of COVID, like that's really essential to how
Right.
cities function. And I think when we come out of this, it will continue to be so.
Okay, so they started thinking about this in 2012, and what year did you get involved?
2013.
13. So you're 7 years in now. Can you walk us through like the 30-second version of from 2013 to now, what you've gone through and where you are in the process?
Yeah, so we, as I mentioned, we did what we called an ideas study, which was early up. So quickly, when I first started working on it, there were two main things I wanted to do. One was to increase the scope of community engagement. And two was to professionalize some of the architecture and design and planning around it. Because it was just really an idea with a small group. It was fairly quiet at the time. And I just went around and talked to as many people as I could possibly think of, particularly stakeholders, as to what the biggest and best idea available was. And I spent almost a year doing that. Then reached out to some architecture and engineering groups. There's a group called the Timmons Group in Richmond, with which you're probably familiar, and an architecture firm called Spatial Affairs Bureau, which is headed up by a guy called Peter Cully, who is he was the project architect on the VMFA. Got to know Richmond through that, and until recently, he had offices in the three world capitals, which are London, Los Angeles, and Scott's Addition.
Absolutely.
And he's a brilliant thinker, and really helped us walk the community through a series of ideas. One of which was to sit on the bridge deck, sitting on the ruin that we talked about earlier. One was one that sort of meandered through the river, and then the third one, I mean, it started at like 30, and then 13, and then 3, was actually sitting on the Manchester Bridge and repurposing a portion of that underused bridge that really serves as a barrier. So that was a year or two project, and every time we do something like that, then we insert a longer period of community engagement around some of the new thinking. So we did that with a series of stakeholders. We built this large site model, which I think you've probably seen. We have a site model that's actually now 28 feet long, 3D rendering of, when I say 3D, it's actually, tactile 3D thing.
That's what you have in the lobby there at Riverfront Plaza. Are you still there?
Yeah, exactly, out front of our office. And you can see the whole footprint of the downtown city there. So we've used that to continue to engage in the community. Then we did another round of architecture and engineering, which we actually pulled the footprint of the park from the Manchester Bridge into the city quite a bit. And that was, to be honest, influenced a little bit by projects like the Atlanta Beltline, which are more of a greenway and a series of park spaces. And so now the kind of main spine or footprint of Bridge Park is a 2-mile route from Lee Street to Hull Street, with the opportunity for extensions into neighborhoods on both sides of the river that were, quite frankly, ejected from the city core in the mid-century. And because 9th Street Manchester Bridge are such important spines for the city, just geographically and culturally, it really opens up an opportunity to really start to reconnect some of those neighborhoods that were disconnected during that time period, using this sort of park at the the locus of it all. So that's been the process. We are currently doing some strategic planning around how to take the project from idea to implementation, some of the funding opportunities, some planning opportunities, how it fits with other city priorities and city planning. Richmond 300, Richmond Riverfront Plan, James River Park System Master Plan, a lot of these plans that are out there. Folks like you and others really would be great to have involved in that process and thinking about how this fits with where Richmond is heading or needs to head. So that's a big project this summer, which actually works out okay with social distancing, because a lot of it's over Zoom and a lot of it's requires some of the additional headspace that some of us have now. And as we kind of talked about before we jumped on the podcast, that people are desperate for open space right now. So the timing is actually pretty good.
Yeah. So, God, it just, I tell my friend Brett Burkhardt. Have you met Brett? So Brett is the guy. He's the developer who's working on the lake, that surf park down in Chesterfield.
Oh yeah, no.
And like you, he's like 6 or 7 years in now. And like you, he had. There's so many different like hurdles to jump over that I joke with him that real estate development's hard enough when you can develop by right and you know what you want to do and you can do it legally, but you still have to raise the money and you still have to build it and go through all that risk. But it's even more challenging for like Brett and for you. You start this project and you have some idea of the complexity and some idea of the hurdles to jump over, but you probably had no idea how many or how long it would take. And I told Brett, I joke with him all the time, like if you really knew how hard it would be, there's no way you probably would do it. But now that you're in so far, and you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, that you're probably glad you went through all that pain. And so so now that you're at this point, like in your best guess, how long a period of time from today, which is May of 2020, until you think people will be walking on this space and using it? That's my first question. Second question is, how difficult, what major hurdles you have to get over to get from here to there?
Yeah, so we are not at we sort of we don't have the approvals from the city yet to do this. Mm-hmm. It still needs a lot of community input, a lot of sort of community standing up and saying this is something we see as an important.
So technically, what do you need from the city? Is it city council has to vote? Is it I'm familiar with rezoning, I'm familiar with SUPs, but I have no idea. What permissions do you have to get to do it?
Yeah, there's a long list of them, but for us, the first step is to get into the city planning documents. So that'll be sort of one of our first moves, based on conversations with the mayor's office, is to get into the city planning documents. So that'll be once we're there, then we can start saying, okay, now how do we start to pay for this? How do we start to tackle first phases? What are some of the approvals, which will be multiple, from environmental to VDOT to transportation to wildlife. There's going to be endless amount of actual approvals when we get down to it, but establishing this as a project that's approved by, like you say, city council and the mayor's office through some sort of planning is kind of the first step to get it launched into the next phase. So that's why we're really spending this summer articulating really strongly why this matters and what it can do for the city in a very specific way. I think, talking about it on a short podcast, it sounds really exciting. And it's something that, why wouldn't we do that? But we really want to attach the rigor of saying, okay, this actually fits. This isn't just some out of the blue idea. This fits very well with priorities of the city, both in terms of planning and culture and history and what we stand for as a city and what we want to stand for as a city and how we might lead rather than follow, which we often do in the past. So I think in terms of timeline, we would love to have some sort of first phase shovel on the ground kind of idea in the next 3 years or so. But we know that the full length of the project would take some time, over 5, 10, 15 years even. Right. But we know that to start to get wins could be really important. The Manchester Bridge portion of it is maybe not even that challenging. We're talking about just repurposing a couple of lanes on that bridge, and there's already way too many. So in a way,
did you tell me that one day that there's like 7 lanes and only really need 2 or 3? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, the piece of data I usually throw out on that is so the Huguenot Bridge, where this project started, has 2 lanes and 25,000 cars a day. The Manchester Bridge has 7 lanes and 17,000 cars a day. Wow. So 5 more lanes and 8,000 less cars.
Right. And that's not going to change drastically in the next 50 years, right? I mean, why was there 7 lanes to begin with?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of, This happened in a lot of cities, but particularly in Richmond, where major highways tore through residential neighborhoods, in many cases, historically black neighborhoods or historically underserved neighborhoods. And the Manchester Bridge is sort of a relic of that.
Right.
It was soon on the heels of annexation, just before that, redlining, just before that, segregation. And so they dropped this giant bridge. I guess they had some funding to do so, like they did. The MLK Bridge is another good example of a giant bridge that was set to tear through neighborhoods and separate people. And so, but what I usually say is the reason that they built it that big was so we could put a bridge park on it one day.
Yeah, well, it's making lemonade with lemons, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's fascinating. I just curious, like, you individually, emotionally, this project for 7 years been grinding, working on it, and you think there's maybe 3 more to get it started. Like, how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you have you had times of extreme doubt and like, holy crap, what am I doing? Walk me through that.
Yeah, no, I don't tell a lot of people this, but yeah, I definitely lose a lot of sleep.
Sure.
I definitely feel a lot of stress. I mean, it's a very challenging project to think about how we'll get this done. But honestly, I'm just uplifted by the process and by the people that I get to meet and the things that I learn. People have frequently asked me like, when are you happiest? And it's when I'm learning. And I mean, I was a corporate finance lawyer. Like, I had a very cushy, sort of insulated life in a way. I mean, I worked very hard, but now my whole world has opened up, and I've learned about so many things about Richmond and people in Richmond who are doing so many inspiring, great things. And honestly, to get to experience that every day is what sustains me.
Yeah.
It's sort of I feel like it's part of my job to understand the sort of deep roots of Richmond, and the people who are really doing the work, quote unquote. You're certainly one of those people, of folks who are out there trying to make Richmond a better place. And it's really inspiring. Richmond is big enough for this type of opportunity, but small enough that we still have a bit of a blank canvas in a way that, man, we have such an opportunity to kind of rethink our city in a way, and figure out what we want it to stand for, where we want it to lead. It's sort of like, it's just prime, so much opportunity knocking for this project, but for the city in general. And I really find that inspiring.
Yeah.
I love the river. I go down there a lot too, for peace too, of course. So that's always comforting, which is one of the drivers of the project in the first place.
Yeah. Other day, and I never would have done this if it wasn't for COVID, but I jogged along from my office. I'm at 5th and Main, right? So I come down to Browns Island and I jogged on the canal walk, and part of me was blown away. It was like twofold. Number one was how beautiful the river and how much cool stuff we kind of already have over there. And second is how underutilized it is. I remember running along the canal walk and like, man, like this is so cool, but there's nothing like, where like where the nightclubs used to be right there. And it just feels dead. You know what I mean? And I know part of it's being, the solitude is kind of part of it, but also that all that stuff was built for people to enjoy it and experience it. And, I feel like Richmond, we you go to Friday Cheers here and there, you go to Browns Island, but like other than that, I feel like that area is a little underutilized, and your Bridge Park would tie into all that, right? And kind of connect Manchester downtown, all that would be part of the deal, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's a funny thing about Richmond is very much a city of neighborhoods, but I really don't think downtown is one of them, unfortunately, yet.
Yeah.
You mentioned Friday Cheers. I took this photo of at Friday Cheers one time where once Friday Cheers ended, there's this huge gaggle of folks on their phones trying to get Ubers to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And what if, that instead they are walking up to the Bridge Park and then to Casa del Barco and then, up 9th Street to, Rappahannock or, any number of Mama J's or, any number of restaurants up into town and sort of keeping people downtown after those sorts of big events, I think is a really important priority for the city.
Yeah, definitely downtown. Whether it's real estate developers to blame or city government to blame, urban planners, downtown, it was clear it was built for people to come work there and then to leave and get out, right? If you look at all these office buildings that have hundreds and hundreds of people working in them, and then we're on the street where there should be some kind of connectivity with retail, like a restaurant or bar, it's parking garage or it's the lobby of the office, and you'll walk through and it's completely dead on the weekends, right? And it takes a long time to undo a lot of that, right? But your project would certainly breathe life into that, because it just feels like kind of a waste. You're like, there are people that work downtown, there are people that live downtown, but there's a little stuff to do on Gray Street, and Shockoe Bottom used to be the driving corridor, which now it's not as strong. You know what I mean? Like you used to be able to walk to 20 places down 18th Street and Main Street and Cary, and that's not the case anymore. A lot of those places have gone out of business, and it's a weird, not quite connected vibe down there. I believe it'll get better as Manchester continues to evolve, and downtown, as we continue to build apartment buildings downtown, density, people that live, work, and play downtown. I think that'll help. So before we move on, other than anything else on the project you want to talk about before we move on to some other Richmond-related questions?
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing from people. So if anybody out there is listening to this, is interested in the project, please reach out to me. And my email is ted@bridgeparkrva.com. Call us or email us or check the Facebook or website. We're always mining ideas from the community, particularly with the community's young people. So we're keen to continue to hear from folks, hear what you see the potential of this project. Particularly, I mentioned we're doing this kind of strategic planning, so now's a great time to reach out. If you're into biking and walking or nature watching or the James River or development or culture or urban planning or any number of things, please reach out and let us know what you think about the project. If you don't like it, I love hearing that too. It's where I learn the most from people who have pushback. That's always super helpful. So we can adjust accordingly. So, and you started talking about this, and then I was just curious, how can people help, financially? Is that the best way to help? Politically? Like, is there a time now coming where we can message Mr. Stoney, we can message our city council people about this? Like, what is it too early for that, or is now the time to start talking about that? No, I think it's a great time to start doing that. Messaging the mayor, your city council person, talking to your neighbors, to your family, to your coworkers, and say, have you heard about this project? Or, for somebody like you who knows a lot of people who work and operate in that area, you should hear about this. You've always been kind to do that for the project. Is super helpful. So I think we're going to start a big push on that eventually, but I think every little bit helps. So if you have the ear of city council members or of the mayor's office, and as citizens, we do. I mean, I sort of have this Jeffersonian education that taught that was, we do have access to our elected officials, and it's sort of up to us to tell them what we want and what we don't want. And so, I think now is a great time to do that, particularly given that everyone is sort of regrouping a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So thanks. That'd be awesome. I appreciate everybody doing that.
Absolutely. And I before I close with the 5 rapid fire Richmond questions, I would just give you the, same thing I tell Brett every time I talk to him about the lake and you on this project is, as a real estate developer, I don't know everything you're going through about it, but I know it's challenging, and I'll tell you it'll be worth it, and keep fighting the good fight, because when I tell Brett is like, picture the kid eating ice cream there at your place, or picture the bros drinking craft beer, listening to music, or however they're going to experience that. I mean, with your project, I would say the same as, keep picturing the humans that are going to experience that project and how it will, affect their quality of life. And for me, that's what would keep me pushing forward. Right. Is that, it'll all be worth it one day. So Best of luck. And
Thank you. That's really encouraging. I really
sure, man. And as always, anything I can do to help, please let me know. And so, yeah, so Richmond, you're a lifelong Richmonder. We like to close with some kind of rapid fire Richmond questions. There's no wrong answer. What is your favorite Richmond restaurant? If you're going to eat dinner anywhere in Richmond one night.
Yeah, I like to go to Heritage. Joe Sparata is a good buddy, and I can also walk there. So ride my bike.
Yeah. It's a great spot. Favorite outdoor activity to do in Richmond?
Definitely walking the James River Park system trails, and in particular the pipeline, which I think I may have mentioned earlier. Gotcha.
Okay. Do you have a favorite Richmond musician, local musician?
I'm a big fan of Matt White and Matthew E. White, and the work that they're doing out of Space Bomb is incredible. Andy Jenkins has an incredible new record out. Chance Fisher, who some people know as Chauncey.
He was actually on this podcast. We had him on this podcast, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
He's one of the nicest people in Richmond. He's one of those real sort of interstitial people that keep us together. Mm-hmm. And he's secretly this incredible musician, too. So those are both friends and folks that I listen to all the time.
Okay. I don't ask everybody this question, but I figure you have an answer to it because you answered that question so well. Favorite local artist? If you're going to put a mural on a building or on a bridge park, who would you want to paint it?
Yeah, in terms of muralists, you have to give the muralists a lot of credit. The first street art festival there at the power plant on the Canal Walk was an absolute seminal moment in Richmond history. Mm-hmm. So much changed then. And Ed Trask and Michael Broth are both great friends, and I love both of those guys to death. And I think Richmond owes a lot to them and what they've done for the culture of the city and pushing us forward. So yeah, those are two of my faves for sure.
Awesome. I didn't know if you know them that well, it's hard to pick one as you'll upset the other. So good answer. Right. I'm doing more than 5 because you're good at this. So 2 more to go. Favorite festival or event that we have every year here in Richmond?
I would say Dominion River Rock. And I tell everybody that if those dogs were still jumping off into that little pond now, I would still be there watching it.
That's cool. Okay, so last one is could be a long one, or be a short one. So you've got a friend who's coming into Richmond for the weekend, never been here, and they're going to fly in on Friday, leave on Sunday. Walk me through the weekend. What do you do? Where do you take them? Where do you go? What do you
do? Yeah, that's a good one. I've probably mentioned some of the things that I would do.
Yeah.
I guess, but yeah, we certainly go for a walk in the James River Park system. I like to go to the pipeline. I like to do the whole loop. It's about 6 miles. With people and with my dog, with my puppy. We'd certainly go to a brewery because it's Richmond. Sure. And get a beer.
Which one? What's your? I should ask you that one too. What's your favorite brewery, or do you have?
Yeah, that's a tough one too because a lot of friends. But I will give a plug for Dodson because they've been really good to Bridge Park, and actually that giant site model that we had actually sat at Dodson for a while. Mm-hmm. And they're great. I love the Ardent guys and Artie Woodendale and the others as well. But the Dodson guys are good friends. So that would be, I guess, my short answer. But the beauty of Scott's Edition, as I mentioned before, you can hit all of them kind of at once, or a lot of them. So yeah, then certainly a good dinner at Heritage or Rappahannock or where else do I like to go? I mentioned Mama J's Soul Taco would be a great one if it's more casual. Then maybe a nightcap at one of those places. I love sort of a craft bourbon drink, like whatever your sort of old fashioned is. Your take on an old fashioned is. I usually like to close the night out with something like that if I'm with friends. Nice. So yeah, like a lot of sort of outdoor. That's the beauty of Richmond, right? That's what Bridge Park is about. Is this combination of the outdoors and of culture.
Sure, sure. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate your time. I just like I tell Brett on his project, gonna tell you like you're one of my heroes because you're crazy enough to think you can do this thing, and but you still have the ability to execute and get it done. And I look forward to seeing this project come through, and I appreciate it because it's it's a gift to all of us that live here in Richmond. So, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks so much. I'm thankful for you too, Duke, and keep up the good work. And like I say, I'm very appreciative of all your encouragement.
Cool, man. Thank you.